Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, so we have a very interesting statistic. This foreclosure starts. We're going to go ahead and throw up the slide right now and talk about this. This is from Adam. They are a data firm. They gather data, and they predominantly are real estate. They grab real estate data. Okay, all the way on the left-hand column, you'll see that is the number of foreclosure starts by quarter. It goes all the way back to 2005, and then it's the last quarter they have is quarter one of 2022. We're just finishing up quarter two, so we'll get that data after that. As you can see, for the last 8 quarters, foreclosure starts are the lowest they have ever been, ever. And so all these people, so first of all, this is why I want to show you the data. There are people out there saying there's all these foreclosures that the banks have foreclosed and they're holding back and they're to put them on the market. Well, first of all, before they can foreclose, they have to start the foreclosure. They have to start a notice of default or some process, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they haven't started because there have been other things going on, right?
Right. Well, so they weren't able to start. So we know that they weren't able to start because the government said, hey, you have to work things out with the borrower because we've got the pandemic and this is not going to be good. The other thing is, remember, the banks got pretty much schooled on this the last time around during the real estate market crash, because they learned that if they foreclose on these properties, they're really hurting themselves, because then there's this whole downward spiral regarding values. So it is not in their interest to foreclose. It is in their interest to work things out with the borrower. The borrowers have equity. So that means that they are able to sell the property and put some money in their pocket and make the bank whole. So it doesn't make sense for the bank to foreclose. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't any foreclosures. Of course, there are special circumstances where the borrower, for whatever reason, isn't interested, isn't capable, whatever, of selling the property, and the bank does foreclose. But the foreclosures have been few and far between, and especially when you're looking at properties that are underwater. I was reading an article today. Apparently there are over 8,000 zip codes in the U.S. Did you know that? Over 8,000 zip codes in the U.S. Take a guess at how many zip codes are underwater out of 8,000.
100? 200?
42.
Okay.
And that's not just a number I made up for those of you who are Hitchhikers the Guide to the Galaxy fans. But only 42 zip codes out of over 8,000. And
that's an aggregate. That's the total number of value of properties and the total number of debt. And those are probably, my guess is those 42, these are zip codes. They could be small. You could have they're probably in areas that are blighted economically. They potentially are blighted economically. Potentially rural, so not necessarily a lot of homes in those areas. Right.
So we're not looking at these zip codes that are, as I like to call them, the 90210 zip codes, right?
Right.
This is not Beverly Hills, people. These are zip codes that are economically blighted, or that are rural, so they're very small, not a lot of population. So when you're keeping that in mind, there's not a whole lot of negative real estate out there. Most real estate, more than most, almost 100% of the real estate out there, it has equity in it. And we know that because values have gone up, because more than 25% of the homes out there are purchased cash. So there's a lot of support for property values out there. And remember, during the last economic downturn, half the homes were bought cash. So half those homes were bought cash. Some of those have obviously changed hands over the years, but the homes in the last couple of years, 25% of those have been bought cash. So there is a lot of support for the values out there. There's a lot of equity out there. With the rise in real estate values, everybody's got some sort of equity in their homes.
And the other thing that people are saying is, well, but those people who were in default or in, they were behind on their payments, the banks are just getting ready to start the foreclosure on them. And that's actually not true. We know that in 2020, there were like 4.7 or 4.8 million homes in forbearance. And all that meant was behind on payments. Mm-hmm. That has we did a video on this, I think a month or two ago, where we showed the charts starting in 2020 and going to today. And we went from red, which was a high number of homes in forbearance, and then by 2021 we were in yellow, and we're in green. There are less homes in forbearance now than historic average are. And that's what this chart shows. This chart shows, even though it's climbing, we're about 50,000 nationwide foreclosure starts. We have to get up to like 150,000 before we get back to like the normal running average in the US. So we're at a third of the normal number. And you can see that this doesn't move very quickly. It moves pretty slow. It's going to, even if it kept increasing, it would still take probably 12 quarters or 3 years to get back to the normal number of foreclosures, right?
Right.
And then in order for it to collapse, it would have to go to 10x what it is now, 10x. So that now is going to take another 15 years, right? You can see where this is going. If you look at that trend, it's going to take a long time to get back to a number of foreclosures need to collapse the market. That's what would collapse the market, and we're not going to have, we're literally not seeing that happening. If we see a steep rise, we'll be the first ones to come on and say, there's something going on. But like Juan has said, people have equity. They've made up their mortgage payment, or they sold the house to get out, or they refied because interest rates are really low, or whatever. Some investor came by, bought the house, and then flipped it. And they're not in forbearance anymore.
Right.
So there's not all these foreclosures out there that are getting ready to happen. And then the other problem too is when you see someone will post an article that foreclosures starts are up 28% over last year. That's it, and they go, it's happening. Look at what it was last year. It was like none. Like it was the lowest ever in the history of since humans started measuring foreclosure starts in 1600s in Amsterdam, right? This is the lowest number we've ever had. And if it goes up 25%, well, it has to go up 25% because it can't go down. It's already at zero. So just be careful when you see these percentage numbers about, it's just like the funny one where somebody was touting the percentage of listings with price increases has gone up 100%. But or 80 something percent. But what happened was there were like 3% of all homes had price increases, and now 6% have price increases or list price decreases. So be careful with the percentage numbers, because when something's really historically really low and it goes up a little, it has a percentage change that's really high. But people are just using that for clickbait. It's a clickbait thing, right? Because if you look at the total number, and this chart just literally, we could have just put this chart up here and sung show tunes. Because the chart literally, it tells you exactly. Because remember what happened the last time the market crashed? That's where all the high posts are up. We've had this chart up the whole time on the video for a reason, just so you guys can watch us. And we're just in a box in here talking. But it's funny because we have to get back to there. Like the market didn't collapse in 2004 and 5 when it was high. It had to go up really high. It had to go up over 400,000. We're at 50,000. So we're really not seeing this. And we're still, like, if you go back to 2014, there were almost 200,000, but the market didn't collapse. Matter of fact, prices went up that year. Prices went up that year. So, this is the thing when people are quoting this data. Just show them this chart and go, hey, well, what about this? And they'll go, oh, but and they'll make up something. They'll have to make up something. Oh, but there's the bank is secretly holding all these homes, which doesn't make sense, because if they owned a bunch of homes, why wouldn't they sell them? Like they would call us, because this is what they did. This is how we sold 3,000 houses. The bank would foreclose. They would call us and say, here's another assignment. We would take the thing. We would go sell it. And then the net proceeds would go back to the bank. We'd earn a commission. And we would do probably 600 of those a year or something, right? Back when you see all those really high lines, all the foreclosures. Banks in the last 3 or 4 years have stopped doing that. There's no more foreclosure. They haven't been foreclosing, giving. Back then, the percentage of homes in the MLS that were bank-owned homes were like 60%, and today it's less than 0.5%. And there are some, there are very few, but most of them they get sold off or they have equity. They get foreclosed, which is another weird thing. Was nobody that got foreclosed from 2005 to 2012 had equity when they got foreclosed. As a percentage, it was almost none. So
Right.
Shockingly today, there's a ton of people being foreclosed that have a ton of equity.
Yeah.
It's like, but they remember, if you don't make your payment, it doesn't matter how much equity you have, you can still get foreclosed.
Right. So what happens is, let's say that the house gets foreclosed and it sells for $500,000, and you only owe the bank $200,000, then the bank gets paid off the $200,000 and you get the other $300,000, and that's the way, minus all their fees and stuff. So don't think though that letting the bank foreclose on the house is an easy way for you to get your house sold, because there are
It's expensive.
because there are a lot of fees that the bank charges, and you actually end up with less money. So if you are ready to go ahead and get out from under the house because you are not able to make the payments or don't want to make the payments, and you're seeing your on the a foreclosure on the horizon, please give us a call and we'll help you out. We'll get the house sold. You'll get more money that way. We'll make the bank whole, and everything will be good.
Yeah.
So. Go ahead and drop us a line in the comments. If you have data for us to examine, please, you can drop a link and we'll be happy to look at the data. We love graphs, we love charts, so please, anything like that, we're very happy to look at. If you have data from a trusted source such as Fannie Mae or Realtor.com or the National Association of Realtors or something like that, please put those links in the comments. We'd love to take a look. Maybe it's something that we've missed. We do like to be educated, and we do depend on you guys for some of that information, so please do that. Hit the notification bell, like the video, share the video, and
We'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.
Another funny story.
Yeah.
We're done.